Canberra Metalheads.
The Archives.
Me and You Season 2. Alright, let's kick it.
Welcome to the Naughties and Beyond section of the Canberra Metalhead show. We got Marky Malphas and
JDecay
with Joel from Witchskull, and also we got Reggae from Reign of Terror.
Yo.
Taking us through the final decade of our three-part series on the show. Hope everyone's been enjoying the installments so far and listening to what we've had leading up to this. So we've been through 80s and before, 90s, and now we're into 2000s and above. So, like I said before, kicking it off there with Mental Cavity. With this opens up the availability to a whole bunch of more bands that we've played. Sometimes had on the show before already, or played on the show already, and also some stuff that we haven't necessarily played. That last track was recorded from vinyl. That's our vinyl edition of this show. And we'll move on now into some the more heavier stuff and some of the stuff that took us through the 2000s. Reggae seems to be the guest opinion for this one. You did a lot of work in this era and around the Canberra scene.
Hey, yeah, I actually just want to do a quick shout out to Mental Cavity. That's Aaron, one of our old drummers that was in that band.
Yep.
So good to see him still kicking.
Yeah, right.
They've been producing some pretty quality output for a fair while now, since he was in a band called Rake Sodomy, which I reckon was around 2005.
Yep.
Around Canberra. What do you reckon, Jay?
Yeah, about 2005.
Yeah.
That was like Shigella, Shatterath.
Some blurry years, but yeah.
Yeah. Incinerator eras. Yeah, around 2005, I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good, man. Like you mentioned, Shigella. So you got Dave playing in Inhuman as the vocalist, and he was in Shigella as well.
Yeah, and yeah, there's heaps of great bands around the early noughties, mid noughties.
Yep. Yeah, it seems like we've opened it up now, and having Jay on the show as well as the co-host is also kind of weighing in on some of the bands as well. So now we're moving into the 2000s decade. We've opened up the floor to everybody and been able to chat about bands because Jay's been in the scene since then as well.
Yeah. Well, Canberra's always been a healthy state, man. That's why we moved here. Came to hang out with Reggae. The scene was established, man. It's a great place to be. Still is. Still growing. So who knows, maybe stuff that's going out now. I might be still running this show in the next 20 years, you never know, and I'll be playing a Witchskull album talking about when Coven's Will came out.
20 years? Jeez. I know that I'll be here.
They'll be on the Wheelchairs of Steel tour.
You know what, man? 20 years' time, I might come in as a guest show and just play it out and say that, look, this is from when I got into the Canberra scene, man. This is the music I was listening to and going out and seeing playing. So, yeah. Hopeful. But yeah, anyway, so hope you enjoy the next coming bracket of the show. We've be playing some stuff from 2000s and beyond, and we'll be playing now a track from Destroyer 666. This is Stand Defiant. Joel, you brought this one in. We actually had Destroyer 666 play here in Canberra. A lot of the listeners from the show would have been at that gig, and now we can play one of their tracks. What are your thoughts on this album?
I love this record. I love this band. I just think they're exceptional. I think we played with them when I was in Arbor Angel really early on in the piece. I've seen The Fly, but I don't actually remember the gig.
Yeah, right.
But it was pretty cool to find that flyer because I've just always been a huge fan of this band.
Yeah, that's
they
cool.
They didn't turn up. That was a controversy.
Oh, well, there you go. No. Oh, you've shattered all my dreams.
They forgot. Lucy booked them and they forgot to turn up.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, at least we've got the flyer.
Yeah, cool.
It was the Arbor Angel Metal for the Brain with Destroyer. That was a good one.
Yeah. What year was that? I don't think I was in them then.
95, I reckon.
No, Bestial Warloss came. That was, but Keith, I don't think Keith was in them then. I don't know. It all becomes a bit of a blur. Yeah. But yeah, this album I just think is excellent. I saw them. They played the Enmore Theatre at some big festival on my 40th birthday. So it was New Year's Eve or whatever, and I turned 40 at midnight on New Year's Eve, and they were playing just as I sort of turned 40. So when I was there with my brother and all of my mates. It was just one of those really kind of cool moments where one of your favourite bands is playing when it's your birthday.
Yeah.
And I just know a couple of not the guys that are in them now, but just some of the previous members. Good mates with. So just one of those bands. I just think of everything they've done's been really good.
Yeah, rad. No, that's good, man. Good to hear that it, you get good memories associated to bands. I know sometimes when I listen to a song, it brings back, what I was doing at the time when I heard it for the first time, or, all those things, what car I was driving, listening to it, you know what I mean? So it's, good to hear that, good to hear you got good memories associated to the band. So, Reggae, you suggested we play some Psychroptic, which, we definitely were going to anyway, but it's also good to hear that shared opinion. You been a fan of the band over the years?
Yeah, my first encounter with these guys was at Rock Ape, I believe. And these guys just struck me as professional from the go set. Like the first time they got on stage, they were playing rings around everybody else. It was some of the most technical stuff I'd ever seen.
Yep.
But they wrote good songs. Like the songs didn't suffer because they were trying to show off on guitars or drums or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And just seeing the way these guys work, the ethic they put into it, it's really inspiring. I mean, we're having this discussion off air, and I don't know whether these guys are making a lot of money, but they're sessioning for other bands. They're constantly touring. They're doing hard yards.
Yep.
And just the way these guys have set themselves up as a little cottage industry, it still gives me a bit of hope that, Reign of Terror could be something that makes a bit of money and keeps me going for a bit, or could be a brand that gets known around the world. Like, I mean, these guys are a bit younger than we are, but seeing the way they've done things, how professionally they've done it, it really gives me a bit of a kick up the butt.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And the thing is too, with the way that technology, internet and all that stuff, the scene has changed and they seem to have adapted to it as well. And bands seem to be getting onto that availability to share their music globally and things like that. I mean, obviously... sometimes payment and stuff like that's way less compared to an album. You only get cents for a play, but at the same time, it sort of closes that gap between Canberra bands and Australian bands and overseas, because as we mentioned early in the show, there's not a lot of there wasn't many platforms in the 80s to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think bands like Psychroptic, it's amazing to see how the way things are now, they can really make an impact. They can have a global approach to what they're doing.
Yep.
Whereas I don't sort of felt, I never felt that we kind of had that back in the day.
Yep.
Whereas you can see now bands sort of regularly doing that.
Yeah.
And they're from Tassie, aren't
yeah,
they?
they're primarily from Tassie.
Yeah, so you sort of look at that in itself, that's another, it's even harder ask probably.
Yeah,
and coming out of Australia, coming out of Tassie's even, the local scene might have been strong, but they still had to obviously come to the mainland every time they wanted to tour. So hats off to them, they've done well.
Yeah, that's it, man. And continuing to do well. In a previous show, we had Todd from Psychroptic, who's now he's officially a member of the band, so they're still moving up and up. That was the third song in our series of 2000 and beyond bands, and now we'll be out, and obviously well worth it as well because they're still releasing albums. And now we'll be moving on into another bracket of a band that we mentioned before, Psychrist with Yuri in the previous show, and this is a band that he's currently in at the moment called Tortured. This album came out in 2008, and it's one of the original bands and albums I remember listening to from the Canberra scene when I first came onto the scene. They're a pretty intense band. I mean, I've seen them playing live, and I remember some of the early days they'd do the full FX paint and stuff like that. They'd do all the gore horror stuff on stage, and it was just a cool show to see. That was predating Yuri and the band, but the whole band sort of comes from members that have been in bands over the years. I mean, Praddy was in Shigella, which we spoke about before. He's the bass guitarist. And yeah, it's just they just got a good history in the scene. So closing up our 2000s bracket, we had those albums came out in towards the end of the 2000s, and like I said before, a big part of the Canberra scene. If I look through old footage, I know sort of whereabouts in the timeline it sits just by what you're holding. Like if it's drums, it's early. Bass, it's like after that, and then now it's guitar is like modern. So it's a bit like with reggae. Like if it's bass, it's like the early days, and then it's guitar later on.
That'll be bass again soon.
Oh yeah, cool. Well, there you go. There's a bit of knowledge for some Reign of Terror info. So you're moving over onto bass, are you, man?
Yeah, I don't know. We might be splitting the duties, or I might be moving over to bass.
Oh, rad, man. So. Yeah, that's it. Well, it's if anyone sort of remembers early Reign of Terror stuff, then you had some bass there, the Under Blackened Skies, wasn't it?
Yep, I was bass player on that.
Yep.
2 demo tapes before it. Yeah.
That's it, man. Well, it goes full circle to just mixing it up within bands. You get people changing, what instrument they're on. I know you mentioned before your current guitarist, bass guitarist Michael, used to be a guitarist more before that.
Well, a lot of us, we just sit at home and write songs by ourselves, you know what I mean? And Mike is very good with the studio stuff. He writes his own songs as well. Mm-hmm. And his songs have a very different style to what I'm doing. So I just said to him, look, man, you may as well just play it on guitar. Like, it's got your personality, your feel all over it. Mm-hmm. If I come in and play it on guitar, it'll change the way the songs sound. So, we could turn up one night and I'll be playing guitar, another night I'll be playing bass. We could do half sets of each.
Yeah.
We can have a bit of fun with it, We've been doing this for a lot of years. It's just time to kick back and have some fun and mix it up a bit,
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll also be cool to see you on bass again, man. I know that you just got a new bass you wanted to try out as well. So, it's nearly like one of those things when you get something new you want to play with, you might change the dynamic of what you do so you get to use that instrument.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool, man. And also had Aeon of Horus. Jay, you know more about Aeon of Horus. I've seen him play a couple of times at the basement more recently, with I know Andy plays keyboard and things like that as well. They got like a cool, we've actually played them on the show before, got like a cool atmospheric sort of keyboard sound to them as well, but then like just insane sort of vocals over the top as it just mixes it up.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Andy's a massive massive dude. He's gonna kill it with his vocals and the piano stuff. Ben Hocking also plays in like Lev Hex and stuff like that.
Because was Andy
original
in
lineup? No. Andy was in Dark Hymn, and I can't remember Shadowrath or not, but definitely Dark Hymn.
Yep.
Not Shadowrath, no.
Not Shadowrath. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so yeah.
He was in another band, of Vathalor.
Yeah, I remember Vathalor.
There we go.
Yeah, and Barry was the original.
That's right. Yeah, he's currently in Synonymous.
Yeah, Synonymous, and later lineups. Tim Brown's on bass now. I know Praddy from Tortured was in on that album.
Okay.
Ex Shigella, Shigella Barry. So
cool.
That's that era.
Yeah, that's that era, and there's all those tracks as well. So that closes up the 2000s bracket, and that concludes the end of the show, and the end of the saga. So that's the end of the over 30 year saga that we've created on the show. And, it's been a pleasure having Joel and Reggae in to run us through all that. Some of the blanks that I don't have or can't fill in. It's definitely good to get a hand with all of that leading up to the show. So thanks for coming in for the series, boys.
No worries, man. It's been bigger than the Star Wars trilogy.
Thanks for having us. It's been excellent.
Yeah, man. No, it's great to have you in, and also we managed to play some vinyl and kick it old school with a couple of the original tracks, get the lo-fi sound, as I keep saying. So thanks for coming on and taking us through that journey and closing up the year with all of the callbacks on all the bands around the world in Australia and right down to Canberra. We'll be kicking off the next year with a whole bunch of new shows. We've got stuff lined up for potential shows down the track, some new ideas and new things coming to Canberra Metalheads. So thanks for tuning in, and thank you everybody for your support over the time that we've been running the show, and thanks for supporting live music.
Well, we look forward to hearing it.
Excellent.
Bam!